VR gaming has gotten spicy, with Apple of all companies entering the scene with their newly announced Vision Pro headset. Now, I don't think Apple has the intent of making this a VR gaming monster, but if she games, we game. Now, luckily, we're still 6 months away from our new Apple Oasis, but what until then? Spend $1,000 and get a poor man's Vision Pro from Meta, or you can flex on everybody and drop almost $1,500 for a full Vive Pro setup, and the reverb thing from HP for about $400. But you start to realize that this new virtual future is expensive. So, other than the Quest, what budget options do you really have? The Rift S has been discontinued for as long as it was supported at this point, which might leave you saying, no way you could be suggesting a $400 VR headset from 2 years ago with no official support, can you? The Rift S probably isn't the best headset for everyone, but that doesn't make it a niche product or mean you shouldn't buy one now. Most people are looking at a headset in the sub $300 to $500 range, but what about less? At release, the Rift S was a decent headset, and mine over the last 2 years has stayed close to my desk. However, in use is a different subject. I think we've never truly had a compelling headset for the masses. While VR is extremely hard to run, what we're seeing with cloud gaming services is interesting, because if they could get the software working, a headset made for any computer to connect via the interweb. Of course, what we think is a genius idea could be a terrible idea from a company standpoint. Nonetheless, I think Apple's approach to an all-in-one superpower house is great, and the ability to use your headset out of VR will be an amazing addition, which is another reason I think VR has stagnated. For the most part, VR headsets have stayed just that, choosing not to focus on augmentation, but for the same price as an M2 MacBook, you would hope that there was some additional features calling for a 2x increase in headset prices. But this video is just about the Rift S, and let's get this out the way. $120 is an amazing price for a full Oculus. If you have a PC and can run VR games, you can check this with the Steam VR checker before buying one, then yes, get one. Honestly, $75 to $125 is the max I would pay for something like this, but for just $100, let me give you an idea of the Rift S experience. First things first, let's make sure we can actually run VR games at all. Sure, you can look at the minimum specs, but who wants to waste time doing the logical thing when you can do it yourself? So boot up some VR benchmark if you have your own. If not, you can download the one I'm using called Superposition. It's a generally good benchmarking tool if you want to overclock your system or just do some basic stress testing. Okay, great. Green box, free download, install, open, and run the VR benchmark. Setup is fairly straightforward. Assuming your PC was game, now this is where the fun begins. You're hunting for the best deal your wallet will allow, so just hold out and keep in mind deals will appear. You just need to be patient, and unless you live in a big city, your chances of finding one of these on Facebook Marketplace are slim to none. So expand your horizons and look on sites like eBay, OfferUp, secondhand sites with a fair reputation, and find a deal you feel comfortable with. Okay, headset in hand now using the Oculus website, download the Rift S drivers, you can click the link in the description, download the software, go to the setup, and boom, VR gaming for just $100. And how does it hold up? Not half bad, honestly. Now sure, it's not the experience Apple demoed in the presentation, but considering this one is one kidney cheaper, it may be the value champ we're looking for. Finally, we can game, but where do we start? In fact, what is this headset even capable of? The Rift S is probably one of the oldest headsets you can buy. That doesn't mean the technology hasn't advanced. Super old in the PC world means less than a decade, and quite frankly, I could see uses for this for the next 2 years at least. $100 for those experiences, in my opinion, isn't half bad, but you should only get one if you see yourself using it for long term. And that's why a placeholder like this is probably your best bet until the Vision Pro arrives. Still, you should expect to pay almost $4K for what might not be a much more enjoyable experience, and you may end up paying the Vision Pro. Having this $100 headset can give you an idea of what VR's like. With screens at 2560 by 1440 and 80Hz, it's fair to assume that the headset won't be around forever. While it's very clunky, old, and not officially supported, it's still a great headset. You clearly won't get the day one experience, but for $100, what more could you ask for? The Rift S has decent head tracking and fairly decent controllers. You can pick up on how to use the controllers fairly well, and in time you'll likely forget they're even there. There's a huge catalog of VR games Oculus Rift players can choose from. Being able to use both Steam VR and Oculus VR makes this one of the more versatile headsets, and again, it's extremely cheap. You can get support or replacement parts, but depending on the situation, it may be as easy as getting a new part the headset needs, like a new wire or headband. So getting a cheap headset, then the replacement part should still be much cheaper option than buying an outright new headset. So is buying the Oculus Rift S the best choice right now? I think it's more complicated than what meets the eye. Like, you may want a VR setup, but remember, you're going to need a PC for the setup, pretty decent one at that. You're also going to need a room to take full advantage of VR. There's a number of very complex things that go into designing a VR headset, and while I wish the Vision Pro was cheaper and more game oriented, I think by V2 or V3 we'll see something with heavy game implementation, which is something Apple has already started to nudge toward. If you guys have your own thoughts about the Vision Pro and the Oculus Rift and all of these things, I mean, at this point we have more VR headsets than we do phones, but thank you guys so much for watching this, and if you guys enjoyed, you can leave a like, and if you hated it, then leave a dislike, and if you really liked the video, please subscribe and watch a couple more videos on my channel. Thank you guys, bye.